Alright, so we got the full summary for 1098, and this is a dark one, guys. We already talked about this yesterday, but going over the full summary here, it is much darker and way more sad. Like, I'm probably going to straight up cry when I read the chapter once it's, like, fully released. And yeah, I said it, it's okay to cry. I mean, we have all cried at One Piece one time or another, and we will continue to do so. Also, let me point out that apparently, for the first time in One Piece history, Oda has not been able to finish the final manuscript 100%. And if that's true, it's one, incredibly impressive, because this is like the first time in 25 years or whatever, how long it's been, that he's not been able to finish it 100%. That's incredible. But also, you know, it's worrying because it happened, and yeah, Oda probably needs another break at this point, which is very well earned, and I hope he decides to take one. One Piece is always going to be here, guys. Just got to be patient, especially with Oda, who is doing most of the work by himself. But anyway, here's a quick recap from the previous chapter. In the previous chapter, we saw that Kuma and Jinny were able to like settle down in Sorbet Kingdom, but eventually Kuma found out that the king there, who's a piece of crap, was trying to use the prisoners as like slaves. So he's essentially being like a Temu version of the Celestial Dragon. So he gets thrown in prison, but then the Revolutionary Army shows back up because, you know, Ivankov knows of Kuma, break them out, and then Jinny and Kuma become a part of the Revolutionary Army. Actually, them joining it forms the Revolutionary Army. And as time passes, you know, they do all of the resistance stuff, and we come to 14 years ago from the present time in the story, and we see that Jinny, who is a Revolutionary Army captain of the Eastern Forces, is suddenly captured. We're finding this out from Dragon, and that was like the big cliffhanger, and we had tons of theories coming into this chapter, like what was going on with Jinny, what is Bonney. Well, we're finding out. So Brook is on the cover page, and Brook's pants have an apology message from Oda saying that I couldn't finish drawing in time, sorry. So yeah, this is, you know, what we talked about before. Jinny was kidnapped to become a Tenryubito's wife. We can't see who is the Tenryubito, aka Celestial Dragon, who married her in this chapter. It's reported that Jinny's entire Revolutionary Army troop was annihilated in a surprise attack by the world government. After Jinny was kidnapped, Revolutionary Army became more violent, and Kuma became much more intense in battles. We see the moment when the Revolutionary Army picked up people from Goa Kingdom. After that, Kuma teleported to another island to help the rebels. Kuma ended the battle in that island all by himself. So let's break down these first two things. So Jinny being kidnapped, forced to become a Tenryubito's wife. We talked about it in the previous review, but I'm thinking that it's a possibility that this was Roswald, the father of Charlos. I only say that because Oda likes to do things like this, you know? And I don't think it's a coincidence that we've seen Roswald and Charlos associated with Bonney on two separate occasions in the series, especially with Roswald riding Kuma. It would make it even more tragic if Bonney is revealed to be the straight up daughter of Roswald and like the half sister of Charlos. And as for the flashback saying picking up people from the Goa Kingdom, this is where like Sabo came from. So I guess we're gonna see little Sabo in this instance. Bonney is the child that was born from Jinny and the Tenryubito. 2 years later, Jinny contracted a mortal disease called Sapphire Scale. It's a very rare disease, even most rare than Amber Lead Syndrome, which was Law's disease when he was a child. Whew, man, remember that backstory? That's what I was thinking of when we were going into this one. I was like, that was a pretty dark backstory, and this is like matching it probably. When patients came into contact with natural light, sunlight or moonlight, Sapphire Scale causes that their entire bodies become blue and their skins get hard like rocks and scales. So that's interesting. I guess it's kind of similar to like Grayscale from Game of Thrones, if you're familiar with that. I mean, at one time, we actually did like that series. Maybe you guys have forgot, but Jinny became more unrecognizable due to the disease. So the Tenryubito released her. We can't see Jinny's face in all the chapter, we just hear her voice. Jinny returned to Sorbet Kingdom and left Bonney with the elders from the island. Then Jinny called to the Revolutionary Army from inside the church where she lived with Kuma. She says, I really want to see everyone again, but this is farewell. And Ivankov says, what? And Kuma says, what are you talking about, Jinny? I thought I'd never see you again. Where are you? Right now, I'll go immediately. During their conversation, they identified Jinny's location, so Kuma teleported to Sorbet Kingdom. Jinny said one last thing to Kuma, but he couldn't hear it because he was teleporting where Jinny was. She says, Kuma, I love you. And Kuma arrived to Sorbet Kingdom, but Jinny was already dead. Kuma laid Jinny to rest. Jinny is her official name as it appears on her grave. Kuma decided to raise Bonney with the Elder's help. Kuma teleported to help the Revolutionary Army from time to time. We could see montages of Kuma's activities with them, including him training Sabo. But unfortunately, Bonney started to develop sapphire scale disease too. So Kuma decided to quit the Revolutionary Army and take care of her. Dragon allowed it. He will ask all the doctors he knew in case any of them could help Bonney. I like how it says Dragon allowed it. I know this is just the way that Zhoniin has written it here, but it's just funny. It's like, yeah, I don't think Dragon really has a say in this. It's like, what's he gonna do? No! Let the girl die. You have to be a revolutionary. But him saying, I will ask all the doctors I know, this is for sure where Vegapunk is coming into the story. Because we know that Dragon knows Vegapunk. He met him at Ohara after the Buster Call. And he kind of knew him before that too. I forget the exact timeline. I'm sure somebody will let you know in the comments. But Dragon knows Vegapunk. And I'm sure he's going to reach out to him because that is the connecting tissue here to where Vegapunk, Kuma, and Bonney all do whatever they did. Kuma had no idea what to do to treat Bonney, so he decided that she couldn't leave the church to avoid natural light. Kuma started to bring Bonney books about different islands to read. Kuma says, if you could travel, where would you like to go, Bonney? Kuma and Bonney enjoyed their time together, dancing and living as father and daughter. Bonney's face had blue stones due to sapphire scale, so Kuma called her Jewelry. Ah, so that's where we get the Jewelry moniker for Bonney. And of course, it has a super tragic and sad backstory to the name itself. I mean, why not? Some years passed. We are now 6 years ago from the present. Bonney is 5 years old. Kuma talked with a doctor about Bonney's disease. The doctor told him that although Bonney never came in contact with natural light, the disease would still get worse with age and she will die when she turns around 10. Bonney overheard the conversation, but she only heard the around 10 part. She was very happy since she misunderstood that she will actually be cured when she turns 10. Kuma always told her optimistically that her disease will be cured one day. Now he couldn't tell her the truth and he didn't know what to do. One more year passed and we are now 5 years from the present. Bonney was 6 years old. The chapter ends when Bakori, former Sorbet king, returned to Sorbet Kingdom and had started to kill Sorbet citizens. People asked Kuma for help. End of chapter, break next week. So, like I was talking about before with Dragon probably talking to Vegapunk, this is where Vegapunk's going to come in. And it's going to lead to whatever turns Kuma into the cyborg. This is where Bonney gets cured. But also the world government is definitely aware of Bonney. Because when Aki Inu was, quote unquote, I don't know, saving / capturing Bonney from Blackbeard, he acted very uncharacteristically towards her. Like something like a shiver ran down my spine when I heard you got captured. Which, like, why would he say that about anyone? And it turns out it's because she's half celestial dragon. But also, maybe he has kind of a soft spot for her. We talked about this with Sai in our video from last week or this week. I don't really remember, but we talked about it. And it's possible that Aki Inu, I don't know, is tied to Vegapunk too, and Kuma, I don't know, whatever was going on there, maybe he was a part of it, kind of like how Kizaru was a part of whatever Vegapunk was doing with Sentomaru, you know, synthesizing his light ability. But also the ending here with the King Bakori, the former king of Sorbet Kingdom, returning and killing Sorbet citizens. We saw in the previous chapter that he was usurped by the Revolutionary Army because he was turning prisoners into slaves. So now he's come back somehow and he's straight up killing people. And Kuma, you know, as we already found out in this chapter, he's becoming more violent and more aggressive. So I'm assuming he's going to like Ursus shock the heck out of this place. And I don't know, maybe the world government shows up with some admirals or something, maybe subdue him and then write the narrative of him being the tyrant. And then in order for him to not be arrested or killed or whatever, he decides to go into Vegapunk's program to become a cyborg, which I guess the Marines and the Celestial Dragons believe that he is subservient now. And in exchange, Vegapunk cures Bonney because she's 12. So I'm assuming that she was cured. And also she doesn't have, you know, the jewelry face anymore. So I guess that's where this is leading. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments. Dark stuff. I can't really get too much into what happened with Jinny and possibly Roswald because, you know, YouTube. But yeah, very berserky of Oda, right? But if you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.